Hi everybody, it's Rebecca Virginia, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you some modern Dollar Tree DIYs with a boho twist. Let's get right into the DIYs. The first DIY is a modern faux geode decor piece. The Dollar Tree currently has geode signs, and by using some extra supplies, I was able to transform this into a multi-dimensional decor piece. Here are all of the supplies that you'll need to make this. We are starting off with this gorgeous geode sign from the Dollar Tree, and I absolutely loved it. I don't even think that you need to add anything. You can go ahead and just display this in your home, but I saw some really cool geode signs from Anthropologie. I'll put up some examples of what I'm talking about, and I thought that I could really just elevate this decor piece and make it 3D and look way more realistic. It does look really cool on camera, but when you see it in the Dollar Tree, it is just a picture printed out and placed. So this is just a completely flat picture on this geode sign. So I wanted to make it more three-dimensional and popping out at you. All of the rocks and sand that I'm going to be using in this are also from the Dollar Tree, just like the sign is. And I'm starting off with a really dark green colored sand, and I just placed down some Mod Podge and then put the sand on top. Then I wasn't sure if the Mod Podge would hold the rocks, but it actually did, which I'm really happy about because I didn't want to have to use hot glue. As you can see, the Mod Podge held the rocks in place. You just need to wait until the Mod Podge is completely dry before you kind of flip off any of the excess, because it does take a little bit longer for the Mod Podge to dry rather than hot glue. And I added a couple of the white rocks to the end, and then the center of my geode, I'm taking these gorgeous dark green rocks and placing them in the center. All of the pictures of geodes that I looked at, the center is really where all the rocks and crystals and all the really pretty parts are concentrated, and then it gets lighter as you disperse out around the geode. So I'm going pretty heavy in the center of our sign. For color pattern on this, I stayed very true to the picture that is on our geode sign, and I was lucky because my Dollar Tree had mostly green and blue rocks and sand, and that's exactly what I needed. So after placing the darker green stones in the center of our geode sign, I took these light blue ones, and I'm basically just following the pattern that's already laid out for me, going all the way around with these lighter blue rocks. After completing a majority of the blue rocks, I took a little break from the blue while it was drying and went ahead and started adding in some more white rocks before I did go back in with the blue. And the important thing here is to just really take your time and wait for that Mod Podge to completely dry. It won't seem like the rocks are going to stick. I definitely did not think that they actually would, but when the Mod Podge dried, it really did hold the rocks in place. You just have to wait a little bit. And in between every section of rocks that I place down, I do go ahead and flip the sign just to make sure that any excess sand or rocks fall off. You can see that I'm concentrating all of my colored rocks in the center of this geode sign. I want the very center to be really heavily full of rocks, so that's why I'm adding in lots more green. And then outside of the blue rocks, I went back in with some of that really dark green sand and kind of made that a border. The last addition on our geode decor piece is to add a bit of the white rocks along the edges of this decor piece, kind of where the white and lighter blue is showing on the edges. I just added a bit of Mod Podge and a couple of white rocks. I loved this geo sign when I bought it at the Dollar Tree, and I felt that by adding just a few extra steps and supplies, I was really able to elevate this into a high-end DIY. Hi everyone, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on a future video. I usually post videos every Thursday, but next week I'll be doing a special collab on Tuesday. Our next DIY is a lightbulb illuminating terrarium. These are really popular in some of the more high-end stores, so I wanted to try to make this using Dollar Tree supplies. Here's what you need. The first step in making our modern light bulb terrarium is to first take a fake plant. And I got this succulent at the Dollar Tree, so I just popped it out of the planter it was in and kind of positioned it how I liked coming out of the light bulb. And I liked it almost falling out. This is a really cool plant. It looks like a little spider, so I wanted all of its edges and leaves coming out of the plant. And I did add a tiny bit of hot glue just to make sure it didn't move around. Then I took the really pretty dark green rocks that we used in the previous Geode DIY, and I am putting these in the bottom area of the terrarium. And I realized about halfway through that it would be way easier instead of doing it through the center hole if I just unscrewed the top of the light bulb and dropped the rocks in that way. So that's what I ended up doing, and I just filled the entire bottom up with these pretty green rocks. I'm using jute as the hanger for this light up hanging terrarium. And once I figured out the length that I wanted, I did want the length pretty long because I want it to be a long hanging terrarium. I made a very large knot so that when I threaded the jute through the top of our light bulb terrarium, the knot would keep the jute from pulling all the way through. Then I took some copper fairy twinkle lights from the Dollar Tree. These are found near the floral section. And once I put batteries into the battery pack, I just took a little bit of packing tape and taped that to the bottom back section of the terrarium. And I know that the battery pack looks pretty bulky and not that attractive, but I promise if you couldn't see the battery pack in the beginning when I showed you how the terrarium looked at the end, you really can't see it because our fake plant is hiding it. But I will show you in just a moment an alternative in case you really just don't like how that battery pack looks. All that I did was stick the twinkle lights down into the light bulb terrarium and threaded the lights around the jute holder as well. Now, if you want an alternative to the large battery pack lights, these little lights are a great option. They're on a timer, so you don't have to worry about turning them off, and they're much smaller than the battery pack. I got these on Amazon during Christmas time because I had lots of lights up in my home. And again, I found them on Amazon. You get 12 for $13, so it's just a little over $1 a piece. I will be sure to link them down below in the description box if you want to check them out. Our next DIY is some sand art decor. I haven't done sand art since I was a kid, and I had so much fun creating this DIY. Here's what you need to recreate it. The first thing that I'm doing is taking this glass jar from the Dollar Tree. I believe it's meant as a candle holder, but I'm going to be using it to hold our sand and the plant. And I took an old toilet paper roll and I just cut it to size, and I am placing this in the center of our glass container. And you don't have to do this step, but I didn't want to waste as much sand, and so that will have us use just a little bit less sand and, have a little bit more supplies. But the sand that I'm actually using, at least in the beginning, is actually from the beach that I had taken home. And then, of course, the green sand is not from the beach, and I picked that up at the Dollar Tree. Once I had the jar filled about 3/4 of the way with sand, it's time to make our sand art. And I'm taking a bamboo skewer, and you want to make sure that the bamboo skewer is pressed all the way against the glass, and then you just start to poke down into the sand and create a little tunnel for the green sand to go down. And I just continue doing this on all 4 sides of our glass container. And you can try out different designs. It doesn't have to be the same as me. I know there's some YouTube videos out there on how to make palm trees and birds and other really fun designs in the sand, but I'm not that well versed in sand art, so I just did a few simple designs. Then to top off the art, I took the same green rocks that I used in our first and second DIY, so I guess I used them a lot in this video, and I put those along the bottom. Then I added some white rocks, and to finish it off, I put the green ones back on top. You're not going to really be able to see them because the plant that I'm about to put in is going to kind of cover it, but I didn't want it to be white at the top, so I did add in the green. And these plants are really cool. They kind of look like succulents to me, but they were in the floral section at the Dollar Tree. and I just placed those in the center of our toilet paper roll. So not only did that toilet paper roll help for making us save a little bit of our sand supply, but it also held those plants in perfectly. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep searching, keep creating.